A rare thing has occurred. 2 times in the past 6 months, I have been in complete agreement with Bernie Sanders.
Say it isn't so, Dave.
No, I mean, you got it when it is what it is, it is what it is,
That's
right?
right.
One time was when his folks watched the Borrowed Future documentary, and his team reached out to us and said they wanted to use it.
Oh, wow.
And because they're also against the epic student loan failure that's out there. They're probably coming to different conclusions about the failure than we are, but we're at least in agreement that the thing is a failure. And they reached out to us on that. And the second time was when I looked down at this Market Watch article that just came out where it says the Federal Reserve's policy of steep interest rate hikes is not helping the struggling economy and is instead hurting working Americans, Senator Bernie Sanders said. I think they're hurting the situation. I think it is wrong to be saying that the way we're going to deal with inflation is by lowering wages and increasing unemployment, the Vermont Independent said in an interview with NBC News' Meet the Press. This is not what we should be doing. This inflation thing is a real issue. It's a global issue. But at a time when working families are struggling, when the people on top are doing phenomenally well, I don't think you go after the working people. Sanders also said he would not raise interest rates any higher. Completely agree, Senator Bernie Sanders.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, this is a rarity. I find myself in agreement sometimes with people that I am seldom in agreement with, but that's okay. If they say the truth, they say the truth. That's right. I can line up with it. He goes on to say some other things, of course, that I don't agree with, but that's okay. I mean, there's no question that, in my mind, that the Fed is using an antiquated monetary policy that is absolutely going to backlash on them. They're going to continue to screw up this economy rather than help it. They're trying to squash inflation that was created by things other than an overheated economy. The economy overheating, due to too much prosperity, God forbid, was not what caused this inflation. That was what caused inflation in the 70s. And this is the monetary policy that was invoked in the 70s. That's how, and up into the 80s, and that's how Jimmy Carter ran interest rates up into the 18% fixed rate for housing. I remember trying to sell houses in 1982. 18% fixed rates for housing. That was a mortgage rate, like a credit card. It's unbelievable. That's what we had, and it was this very policy, this very view of monetary policy, that this is how you correct economic inflation, is it's kind of like chemotherapy.
Yes.
You try to kill the patient a different way before the cancer gets them.
That's right.
I mean, if you know people or if you've ever had chemotherapy, I mean, they basically destroy your body in an effort to destroy the cancer cells. And it works. But this will work eventually, but the devastating side effects are going to be very, very real. So, yeah, the Fed is out to lunch. They're smoking crack. They are using a hammer. They're dropping an atom bomb on a pissant here, and it's absolutely ridiculous. They're overkill, and they're going to cause bigger problems. The labor problem is not due to an economic inflation. It's due to the pandemic and you bozos quarantine issues out of Washington. You disrupted the supply chain, you disrupted the labor market, and it turned into an inflationary economy. And that's what did it.
Yeah.
All in an effort to flatten the curve. Remember when we had to flatten the curve? Now we got a new curve we got to flatten. Yeah. And they're getting ready to flatten everybody with it.
Yeah.
And so now we've got mortgage interest rates at 7%, when an eye blink ago they were at 3%. And God forbid house prices were doing well. God forbid the housing market was too hot. And if you let these things burn out, they burn themselves out without going ahead and walking up in the middle of it and just screwing around with it. Sanders is exactly right. It's going to hurt working people in an effort to look like you're doing something.
Well, and Jerome Powell has said that very thing. He's come out and said on multiple occasions, you can look it up, he has said that this is the only way to deal with this. We've got to relieve wage pressure. So that's a fancy phrase that means they think that wages are too high. Hourly wages and salaries are absolutely high. But the reality is, instead of letting the market work itself out. And yes, you have some spikes in inflation when you see wages go up. That's just the natural way it works, folks. When a Target's got to hire somebody and pay them $20 an hour and they were paying them 14 or 16 or whatever, we can clap and applaud. I'm glad for that. I want everybody to make more money. But Target is in the business of profit. And so they're going to then pass the cost on to you, and your loofah is going to cost more. The other factor that has affected wage increase is that we saw a tremendous amount of people in the ages of 53 to 65. I was studying this data this week, Dave. They went home. They looked at their retirement accounts, and they said, we don't have to work. And when the pandemic disrupted everything and they went home and everything kind of changed, they went and said, well, you know what? I've got enough. And they left the marketplace. And that has created a big gap that we see now where companies are trying to find people. And so it's up in the ante. I'm going to pay you a signing bonus. I'm going to pay you 15% more to do the same job. And that's the reality on the street that has helped push inflation to a stubborn level that we are now, because supply chain is fixed. We don't see ships sitting off of Long Beach anymore. And so Bernie's right in saying that. So Jerome Powell's saying we've got to drive unemployment up. He's saying those exact things. We want to see unemployment at 6.5%. Now, how moronic is that?
Well, and here's the other thing, though. Unemployment does not count able-bodied people who are not looking for work.
That is correct.
And we've got 7 million males, 7 million males between the ages of 25 and 54 that are able-bodied and are not looking for work.
That's correct.
What are they doing? When they're interviewed, they said screens. Translation, Halo and Call of Duty.
Yeah.
While smoking pot in their mother's basement. And they're 32 years old. We've got a way too large a segment of our male population that is completely self-selected out of the workplace and is creating a labor shortage.
Yeah.
And, you know, how are these people eating? Let me help you with this. Government support.
Yes.
And some of you mamas need to throw your babies out in the streets so they can be cowboys. Oh, unbelievable.
That's right. That's spot on.
Hey, let me just tell you, an eagle that doesn't leave the nest eventually is known as a turkey. That's how this works. So this is what's going on in the economy, boys and girls. It's real stuff out there. We have a work ethic crisis in America, for sure, without a doubt. We got people aiming at mediocrity instead of trying to be somebody. This is The Ramsey Show.